Welcome, everyone, with Greg Roth and the Ambassador, David Eby. This is yours truly, Eric Glazer, and this is your Sharp Squares podcast for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Week 20, if you're counting, for the NFL season 2025-26. Last week, wildcard weekend, was a complete debacle. It was unprecedented. Our Sharps, in aggregate, were 15.6%. And just when I was bragging about our success in playoffs and during that round, we go, for the first time ever, 0 for 6. Metal games were 0 for 5. And we're still not over it. But here's the truth. In the spirit of Jack Nicklaus, said he's never three-putted and never missed a putt under pressure inside of 5 feet. We go into this week with complete confidence and no memory, because we know we have things right for the divisional round. And to tell you about that, to tell you what we have right, based upon the sharp information we've curated for all of you, is everyone's favorite fellow degenerate, the Greg Roth.
Eric, thank you so much, Ambassador. It's great to see you on this Friday evening before the divisional round. I think we have nowhere to go but up from last week. If you take even with that horrible week, Eric, if you take our aggregate playoff record, it's still excellent. So I'm bullish. I'm bullish on this week. What do we have? What do our Sharps have in store for us? Like last week, we had 6 games and we had 5 medal games. This week, I have to say I'm surprised again. 4 games, 3 medal games. Not only that, all 3 are gold. Who is the top-rated game? Who is the top team of these 8 teams that our Sharps want to put the most money on? It's not what I would have picked. I don't know if that's good news. But that team, the top team, according to our Sharps this week, is the Houston Texans. They're plus 3.5. They're in New England to take on the Patriots. Marco D'Angelo, Todd Wishnev, Gil Alexander, Marty Herney all picked Houston. The whale capper does like New England. The next 2 gold games, they were tied. So I don't know which one is in second place or third place. I guess 2A and 2B. I'm going to give you one of them first. That pick is the Denver Broncos. They're minus a half a point. They're at home taking on the Buffalo Bills. Fabian Summer, Sharper Square Podcast, and the whale capper all like Denver. Todd Wishnev did select Buffalo. The third gold game, tied with Denver. The pick is the Los Angeles Rams. They're minus 3.5. A road favorite, a dome team traveling to what looks like a blizzard in Chicago. You know how I feel about that. I do not like the dome teams in cold weather, but they are gold versus the Bears. Fabian Summer and Whale Capper picked the Rams. The last game, not a medal game, not even close to a medal game. It did register in our system briefly for the 49ers. So they're the 4th pick at plus 7.5. They're in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Gil Alexander, Sharper Squares, both picked the 49ers. Marco D'Angelo and the whale capper picked Seattle. So to summarize, the Texans at plus 3.5, the Broncos at minus a half, and the Rams at minus 3.5 are all gold. The 49ers are a pick, but not a medal game.
You know, less and less shows are taking sides on these games, so we have less and less people to choose from and data to collect on side picks. And just know, folks, the Texans game was at double the score, double the rating, the weight that the other 2 goal games did. It was a legit goal game. Not that the other 2 aren't legit, but they were definitely closer to silver status.
I guess, which one do you like the least?
I mean,
The Rams are I have to say, this is not going to surprise anybody that I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you had asked me what the line in the Rams Bears game pre-production, I'm looking at this for the first time all week, and was shocked that the Rams are 3.5 point favorites in Chicago.
well, you're going to be interested. You're the one reading that handicap, so get ready, take your notes, because it does address some of the line value.
I promise not to editorialize anymore on that.
And that's a good segue. So if you're just looking for these picks and whatever monotony we are providing you right now, you are now all dismissed. But if you're looking for some handicapping highlights and some trends from the Action Network, you are in the right place. Take it away, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Eric. First trend since 2003, home teams in the divisional round coming off a bye are 33, 44, and 1 ATS. That's just 43%, including 3 and 7 ATS since 2020. Of course, that applies to Seattle and Denver this week. As a favorite of 7 or more points off a bye, these teams are just 17, 26, and 1 against the spread. That's just 40%, and that applies to Seattle. So, scratch your head at that one. Road teams that missed the playoffs last year are 29, 4, and 14 against the spread, 67% in the divisional round since 2003, and that applies to San Francisco this week.
All right, well, teams to win as an underdog in the wild card round. So your underdog winners last week, hopefully you're all calculating who those teams were. There were 3 of them, by the way. We'll answer that question in a moment. They are 8-30 straight up and only 500 ATS in the divisional round, and that is since 2003. Since 2011, these teams are 3-22 straight up and 13-12 ATS. So your underdog winners in the wild card round were the 49ers, the Bills, and the Bears. So that supports 2 of our goal picks. Contrary to that trend, on the road in Seattle, one Brock Purdy is 4-0 straight up and 4-0 ATS, winning by 10.5 points per game and covering by 6.4 points per game.
Keeping with another favorable 49er trend in the wild card and divisional round of the playoffs, Kyle Shanahan is 7-0 straight up and 6-1 against the spread, including 3-0 straight up on the road as underdogs in both of those rounds. Next trend, the 49ers, Bills, and Texans all play on short rest this week. In the playoffs, teams playing on short rest in the playoffs in the divisional round or later are just 6-15 straight up, dating back to division realignment in 2002.
Finally, Seattle is on 14 days rest. The 49ers are on just 6 days rest. According to the NFL, teams to have that big of a rest advantage heading into a playoff matchup all won their games outright. 7-0 straight up since 1984, and that better happen again this year, or all my parlays are going to be dead.
All right, our first goal game and the one with the most weight on it. The Texans plus 3.5 in Foxborough. Houston's defense is widely viewed as the best unit on the field. I would argue the best unit left in the playoffs. Marco D'Angelo, Todd Wishnev, Gil Alexander, and Marty Herney all independently identified the Texans defense as elite and capable of dictating the game script. Marty Herney of the GM Shuffle calls the Texas defense the hottest unit in football, agreeing with Eric Glazer, emphasizing pressure, consistency, and physicality. Also, New England's profile is inflated by schedule and recency bias. Tell me if you've heard this before. Gil Alexander and Wishnev both argue New England's numbers are propped up by one of the easiest schedules in the league, and Gil Alexander notes that the Patriots scored only 16 points against a legitimate defense, questioning their offensive ceiling. In fact, the Patriots' blowout win last week is framed as a Chargers collapse, not as a sustainable signal of New England's strength. The power ratings and market movements also favor Houston here. Marco D'Angelo states, on a neutral field, Houston should be a small favorite. Plus 3.5 implies a rating gap that does not exist in reality. Gil Alexander noted at the opener, New England -2.5, and that massive movement through the key number of 3 suggests either the power ratings are massively wrong or the market is just mispricing the Patriots. And that move through that key number to +3.5 is framed as a public-driven, not sharp-driven move. Fourth reason to take the Texans and feel good about it, Greg. Houston's pass rush versus New England's offensive line. Marty Herney, again at the GM Shuffle, highlights that the Patriots' offensive line has struggled badly against pressure, and Drake May has been under constant duress in recent games. Houston's defensive front is described as deep, relentless, and able to win without blitzing, and this analysis reinforces that Houston can control the game even as long as Stroud avoids turnovers. And finally, the game shape points towards a tight, low-margin outcome. So, multiple shows, Dream Preview, GM Shuffle, and more discuss conservative playoff scripts, early feeling out periods, field position battles. Houston's described as really comfortable playing slow, willing to grind games out. This profile increases the likelihood of a one-score outcome, or +3.5 is maximally valuable. Dissenting opinion with the Whale Capper. He dissents because he believes New England's offense is the best unit on the field. Confidence in Drake May's explosive playmaking, and expectations that Houston struggles if forced into comeback mode. Incidentally, I did hear this, I think on ESPN, that Houston is the 10th worst defense protecting against quarterback runs. Little nugget there. Take Drake May on the over 30 rushing yards. Wow. No, don't do that. That's advice for me. You don't want that. Finally, this is a ceiling-based Patriot argument, not a dismissal of Houston's defense. He believes there's just a higher ceiling for the Patriots. Timestamps for all this wonderful information. Bet on it. 14 minutes, 52 seconds. Beating the book, 46 minutes, 20 seconds. The GM Shuffle, 46 minutes to the second. And you could see, listen to the deep dive descent, 55 minutes, 30 seconds.
Our second game is the Bills at the Broncos. The pick is the Broncos -0.5 point. Now, Denver's viewed as the more complete, stable team. Multiple shows describe Denver as more balanced across offense, defense, and special teams, and less reliant on any single player or unit. Buffalo, by contrast, is described as injured and more dependent on quarterback play and efficiency spikes. Sharper Square explicitly notes that when spreads are under a field goal, Sharps default to the team with fewer structural weaknesses would be the Broncos in this case, according to the Sharps. Second reason to go for the Broncos is Denver's defensive profile matches up well with Buffalo. Denver's defense is described as disciplined, able to limit explosive plays, and strong at forcing long, methodical drives. Meanwhile, Buffalo's offense is framed as more dangerous when creating chunk plays and less efficient when forced to sustain drives. Fabian Summer emphasizes that Denver's defensive structure caps Buffalo's offensive ceiling, even if Buffalo moves the ball at times between the 20s. Third reason, Denver's game control fits a playoff environment. Denver is described as comfortable slowing games down and willing to lean on defense and field position. Fabian Summer says that this is going to be a low variance playoff profile, which is ideal when laying a short number like -0.5. Todd Wishnev has the sole dissenting opinion here. He supports the Bills because he believes Buffalo's offense has the highest ceiling in the matchup. He has confidence in Buffalo's ability to break a game open with explosive plays, and he's willing to bet against Denver if the Broncos are forced to win via offense. This is a ceiling-based Buffalo argument, not a critique of Denver's defense. Timestamps, forward progress, 4 minutes, deep dive, 7 minutes, 30 seconds, and beating the book, Todd Wishnev's dissent, 34 minutes and 28 seconds.
Next goal game, the Rams of Los Angeles in snowy Chicago and windy Chicago to take on the Bears. The Rams are -3.5. First handicapping team. The power ratings and line value favor the Rams. Fabian Summer, Will Capper both indicate that the Rams grade significantly higher than the Bears in internal power ratings, -3.5 does not reflect the true gap between these teams. Multiple shows reference Rams as a team that should be laying closer to 5 or 6 points on a neutral field. Chicago is repeatedly described across our podcast outside of the top tier in overall team strength and inflated by situational results rather than down-to-down efficiency. Second handicapping theme, the Rams' offensive matchup is a clear edge. One of the most efficient units remaining in the playoffs, aggressive on early downs, comfortable scoring even without good field position. Several of our cappers frame Chicago's defense as relying on turnovers rather than sustainable efficiency, vulnerable to structured high percentage passing attacks that the Rams have. Chicago struggles to get off the field on third down. This allows the Rams to dictate tempo and possession. The timestamps for those handicaps: forward progress 29 minutes 30 seconds, deep dive 57 minutes 42 seconds.
Great stuff, gentlemen. Shout out to the dealer and Vic and Schultz, Koof, Peabody for all of their help with the show. A special good luck to Hoosiers Gerber and Weissmark, and to our resident Kane, Mr. Roth. Let's all get along, please. And as a reminder, no matter what college we went to, none of us are truly sharp. But this is your Sharp Squares podcast.
Good luck out there.